All right, welcome to the Finance Committee meeting for April 1st, 2026. Tonight, we're gonna review town government budgets. It's the folks in town hall and cable. Last week, we did the police, fire, and schools, and prior to that, we did the DPW. One of the approaches we're taking this year was trying to look at it from a community perspective, that overall, we have to meet these goals. So we've been working with Melanie, and the departments have been working with Melanie to put together. The liaisons have met with departments, so tonight we're gonna review the outcome of that compilation of data. And then, any department that is here, like we did last week, which unfortunately couldn't be broadcast with technical difficulties, is understand the impact and what your concerns are, or things you see in the future, etc. So everybody will have opportunity to have that. We're just not gonna go over line by line tonight. Because I don't think we're done yet. So we'll have more to do, but let's like to get an idea of where we're at so far, and then we'll you have the input, and then we'll talk about where we have to go from there. Before we do that, everybody has copies of the October 23rd meeting. Should put my glasses on to make sure I'm not reading this incorrectly. And of the January 14th meeting, and these are the minutes. We had a chance to review them. I don't see any changes from the discussions that we had, and I would entertain a motion to accept them.
I'll make a motion to accept the October 23rd and the January 14th meeting minutes. Second.
Okay, that was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. Those are completed. So we also have, that came about in the past like 24 hours, 2 reserve fund transfer requests. One of them is for $4,500 in regards to our bylaw that we passed at the town meeting last year for solicitations in town. That they have to go to the police, they have to get badged, they have to have a photo, and we do a criminal background check on them, etc. I believe they're assessed a $50 fee for that, and
Something like that.
yeah, and if they're not in compliance with that, they can be fined up to $300. So if they do show up at your house, they should have a badge and should be cleared by the town.
And also, you can get a sticker from the police department for your house that says no solicitors.
Right. So you can get that sticker and shouldn't be coming selling you any more solar. So it's $4,500. It was not a planned line item budget. We weren't really aware of the need at the time. So in order to do that, the unfunded request is for $4,500. We looked at this, we did some ballparking, and we have a fine quote put together. And I believe this is, well, it's a lot different than what we started with. It's a lot less. So, is there any questions or discussion about this?
Yeah, what does it cover? What is the 45?
It covers, put my glasses back
It's a
on.
it's, so basically, some organization, whatever, company that's going out doing door-to-door sales has to get a permit from the police department. Their agents have to be registered and fingerprinted and all that jazz. And then on the other end, if you know, the police department will have a registration list. We'll have it on the website. You can sign up and say, I want to be on the no solicitation list. So the solicitors would come as part of the registration process, get that list. But you also can, and therefore, be told, no, you can't go to 10 Main Street. But the person at 10 Main Street could also get a sticker if they'd like from the police department to put up on their house saying no solicitation.
So those costs are for photo ID card, printer, maker system, $2,900, ID card stock, printer ribbon, laminates, $500, 1,000 residence decals at $800, and lanyards for the IDs at $300, for a total of $4,500.
Is there any additional fees that would go with that equipment or for background checks or anything like that? Is that just,
I can speak to that. There shouldn't be any additional fees. We already bring, the police department already brings in people that do background checks for various reasons already. So, typically the person would be in the building would be handling that as part of it.
Right.
So
And-
the only ongoing fees I could see is potentially needing more cards, more ink, more ribbons down the line.
But at the same time, there will be a $50 fee assessed to the salesperson or group. So, all right, and then if we get this done, we can start enacting our bylaw, correct? Okay. Any discussion?
Is that $50 per person who's soliciting, or just $50 for the company that wants to
I'm gonna
solicit?
make a guess it's $50 per person, because I gotta do a background check on each person.
Yeah, I believe so.
So does that offset any of these? Like, this seems a little excessive for a program where they're paying $50 to go through all of this.
Well, the money goes in the general fund,
Comes back.
because it's not a revolving fund situation. So whatever's collected goes in the general fund, which is why we need the separate appropriation. It won't be a situation that those registration fees will then go into a particular fund to offset those expenses. They just go in the general fund. If the police department ends up having to do this on an ongoing concern, then they would include it in future operating budgets.
Right. But we'll also know, and be able to track how much revenue it's brought in from the fees like other areas. So,
could it be an annual fee? Or is it like one-time fee for 3 years or something like that?
on the bylaw,
Yeah, but I'm not sure about.
well, I don't,
Per person,
I
like,
mean, I could be the fuller brush man coming to sell now and then come and sell something else later. I would think each program coming in would need to pay the fee. So, we're not positive. Charlie, do you know?
I'm looking at the bylaw.
Look at the bylaw.
Each salesperson must submit an application for a fee of $50, so it's per 50. There's nothing in here that I read that says anything about an annual fee. So if there's nothing that says you have to apply on an annual basis, it would be, in my mind, a one-time. But on the other hand, it also would be a one-time ID check and all that. They're not gonna, if you're only applying once, you're only applying once, and you're clear, you're clear.
What happens if you commit a bunch of
Well,
house
Well,
breaks?
typically,
Yeah,
like, background
brings
checks
up
are
a
not
good point.
valid
Perhaps
forever.
we should discuss this at our next meeting with a little more information, because even when I go to coach over in Brockton, they have to do a background check every year. So there should be a validity period for this clearance. So let's get some.
Okay, well, let's see, I'm just reading this. Each permit issued under the provisions of the bylaw shall continue in force for 1 year from the day of issuance.
there you go.
So
Well, our answer. Great.
We will have,
See, everybody working together, we figured it out. So.
One brain.
Good news is someone had thought of it in advance, so that's a plus.
Yeah, good. So how thorough we are. Good questions. Now, I'll entertain a motion if there is one. Somebody?
I'll make
Bueller?
to purchase the equipment for solicitation and photo and badges.
I would second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Uh,
Opposed? No? Okay, thank you. And then, Charlie, you want to talk a little bit about this liability, personal property liability?
well, it's for the insurance, but basically, we have a couple of court cases going on that require us to pay, we have deductibles for. The insurance is covering it, but the deductible has to be fulfilled first. Problem is that we don't have enough in the insurance account right now to cover the deductibles. So Myers billed us for those, and we're obligated to pay them.
So these are all copies, and there's one, so it's one request for $10,599?
That's two separate cases with two separate amounts for the deductibles. We may end up getting billed again for these cases because you said that deductible's 10,000 per case. So if we end up with additional expenses, we may end up getting another bill from Maya.
Okay.
But right now, those two cases are encompassed in $10,599. So, in order to cover insurance deductibles, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for the insurance deductibles in the amount of $10,599 for 2 cases.
I can second that.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now to some of the meat and bones of this. We'll go with Melanie.
You wanna go through, like, talk about how we looked at town hall first?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about how we looked at it and then get to some bottom line numbers on where we're at. And then an overall of the town, we'll have the departments over here who wanna speak. And then we'll talk about where we go from there.
So I think the approach we took for town hall was when we asked for a 2% budget reduction from all the departments, knowing that that would not be feasible for every department at town hall. So if you took 2% from every department at town hall staffed with 1 to the max is 4 people, and besides the treasurer's budget, like everyone's budget is very minimal, like the assessor's budget, the accountant's budget, there's not a lot of lines in the budgets. So to take 2%, you're like getting really nitty gritty, and you're saying, okay, well maybe I won't go to one conference, and there's my 2%. And you're looking at it. It's tough to look at in the small departments. We said let's look at it as a whole and see what everyone needs for FY27, and then we'll go back and look at it that way. So what we really did was we had everybody put in just a level, but level service budget. So what do you got going on in your department? There's no added people. There's no really added services. It just depends on the department, and we went through that with everyone to put it together. So there were some things like the treasurer's budget that we need a new payroll service this year because the payroll provider that we use is no longer offering payroll services. So we went out to bid, and we found a really reasonable solution, but obviously it's always going to be more expensive than what you had. You're very rarely going to get something less. And knowing, with a lot of the people are in the clerical union, so we know what their salaries are going to look like for FY27. Anyone that's in individual contracts or non-union personnel, the board's yet to make a decision on salaries for FY27, so those have been flat for the most part, unless anyone had an individual contract in place for FY27. But I think it makes more sense to, if you want to pick departments and talk about certain certain areas.
So when you've put this all together,
Mm-hmm.
from a bottom line perspective, where's that number compared to where we need it to be?
I wouldn't say I looked at it like that yet, because I wanted to see. There's so many things in town hall that don't have within the town hall budget that don't have any give. Like most of the treasurer's entire budget it's one of the largest, would be the largest in town hall, but it's health insurance, it's the debt payments, it's the payroll processing, it's postage to mail the bills. There's not really anything to play with there, so I think just more wanted to go over first what changed from year to year with these budgets, so that you knew.
Right. So what drove the selectmen's budget to increase?
The overall selectmen's budget includes, for instance, as an example, the general insurance account. There's one we just put deductibles in. And we're seeing increases in the premiums for 26 to 27 as an example.
So I think we put in about, maybe it's about $25,000 increase from FY '26 to FY '27, and that's based on what we expect to be billed. We got rates, the expected rates, and then looking at where we were this year. And then the other big piece, assuming it all falls under that line, but I'm not sure what you're looking at, if it's a separate line, is the legal expense.
I saw that.
So legal has been historically underfunded the last few years, and we've been scrambling at year end to kind of fill the gaps. So we wanted to more accurately budget that account.
Is this 275 up from the 175?
Correct.
Is that relative to what our actual expenses really have been?
Yeah, we're still, so they're usually behind. We've only been billed 6 months so far, in FY '26. But at this time, that number seems okay, but knowing that there's been 3 months that we haven't seen bills for yet, for FY '26. It's,
And there was another one I had a question for in that piece was, is there something in here that was? Commission, patriotic activities, the Arts Council, something about Southeast Regional something,
The regional service group.
yeah, what's
yeah,
that?
so that,
that's it. Sorry, Ellen, go.
so that's the group that the DPW belongs to, so that they can go out and get group contracts with the areas on paving, asphalt. And so that group is doing all of the bidding work with all the companies. It takes a huge administrative burden off of the town, and you get better rates because you're collectively contracting with all the towns. So we do that annually,
Right.
and
so
that's how.
It's been 70,000, it's up to 81,000
Oh
now?
no, that's not that line. That's the annual audit.
No, the audit's separate.
That one's what, 4,100?
Yeah, maybe 49.
It's definitely not 80. The 81 is the annual audit.
Yeah, the one that she's looking at, the regional services totals 41. If you're on Excel, it's on row 61. 41. It's line item 124.
I'll get there. Okay. Okay, so let's take an opportunity to have the folks who are here talk about where they're at right now and some of their concerns may be, et cetera, and then we can talk about any other thing in general government and go into some specifics, because there is some work we still need to do. So, technology, wanna give us a shot and tell us?
Absolutely.
Now, technology is top of the mind because at the Council on Aging, they did an AI session, and that was the quietest room I was ever in because it scared the heck out of everybody. So, Ryan, take it easy on us.
Promise I'll go slow. For the cameras, I'm Ryan McGonigal. I'm the IT director for the town. The budget that I'm proposing is a 1% reduction from FY '26. Most of these costs are because of my contract, my increases for various softwares around town. On average, I'm seeing anywhere between a 3 to 5% increase on the software, which is what all my peers are seeing across the board, both public and private. My reduction actually is directly from basically my funding for in case something happens money. If a piece of equipment breaks over the course of the year, I usually have a pool of money that I can use then to replace that equipment. So that's where you're seeing my 1% reduction.
And so that's in professional services, computers.
Yes.
And where is that expense so far this year?
You have lines to
Yeah.
that you're all into.
I want to say I'm like 75% or 80% of my total budget spent. Typically, right where I am over the course of this point every year. my budget's a little weird because depending on when contracts end or renew or expire, I could have a renewal come due, June 2nd,
Right.
and it's technically part of my FY26 budget. It all depends, like how historically things happened, when we got hardware in, when the contract started, because the hardware came in from a capital line that was approved, 10 months prior to that. So tends to be a little complicated when trying to budget things out, like, 19 months in advance. But typically what I do is I take a look at a 3 to 5 year track record of increases I was seeing over a particular product, and I'll reach out to peers that I know are using the same product that are also renewing and see what type of percentages they're seeing as well.
So while I have you here, question is about all the funds and grants and stuff that come through and the reimbursement we get at 75%, et cetera. How is all that going?
Well, MBTA has made a really big dent in what we can get for grants right now. I'm potentially looking at a grant deficit of about $500,000 to me this year, between municipal fiber grants that I'm not going to be eligible for because of MBTA, as well as a community compact grants, which we're hopefully going to use for new servers for the town. So that's really the two biggest things I'm seeing a reduction for because of grants. I was also directly denied for a smaller grant for endpoint protection for the town, which I was going to use that to offset my budget. Hopefully see another reduction of about $5,000 to $6,000 for a 1 year savings for that grant. So yeah, grants are very thin right now for us, unfortunately, in the IT section. But I'm still definitely applying for everything I can. I'd rather them say no to me than not apply for it.
Oh yeah, I think we still need to keep
Oh, yeah.
applying for grants.
Yeah.
And another question while I have you here is, I know there, and I understand there was a breach of some data to some degree, especially particularly with the school system. And you're gonna present some financial numbers from a budgetary perspective to us and the capital committee. Hopefully that's on the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
So, and any information you get us on that earlier, you can share with the committees?
Yeah, I mean, as far as directly with a cyber incident, I would rather have the school direct, because they'll have a better idea of what their actual costs are because we're separate IT departments. I did work with the schools a lot on this issue, just because we are so linked on having a number of systems, our town accounting software and things like that. But as far as the physical capital project that you're speaking of, the schools and I have a number of needs coming up in the next 5 to 7 years that we're going to see, just because we've had a lot of hardware either age out because of when it was purchased, 2018, 2017, 2016, and we're getting to that point. So knowing where we are financially, the schools and I have decided to really focus on what can we do together to try to see some cost reductions on projects. For instance, the one they're specifically talking about is new firewalls. The school's firewalls are reaching end of life. That they will no longer be supported next year. I believe it's fall of next year. The town firewalls are a different model. We are now looking at our firewalls being about 18 months out from that when our firewalls are going to reach end of life. So rather than doing 2 large capital projects for firewalls, we decided, okay, maybe we'll just do one larger firewall up front so we don't have to do that second capital project later on. Ask for more money at one point, but probably see a cost, anywhere from like a 60 to 65%, of the cost of both those projects, and do it that way because for the most part we have so many services. The town actually gets our ISP from the school, so it's piped over here. So we could very easily, use one larger firewall to have all of our traffic go over that place. And we've had discussions of multiple things. We're going to have to look to do town servers at some point. Same thing on the school side. If we can get a larger server, one single server farm as opposed to 2 separate server farms, you know, we may see, you know, a 30% cost reduction on, you know, the project as a whole.
Okay, server farms, clouds, I don't
It's a
know.
good thing he understands.
Yeah,
it.
I mean, long story short, I mean, is we're together we're trying to save money for the town.
That
That's,
makes sense.
Yeah, we just wanna, you know, when it comes time, we wanna work towards understanding those potential forecasted costs. Where it's gonna come from capital, what the impact of our operating budgets from year to year, and understand where the potential savings may come from. It would be very important for everybody to understand it, so. Anything else, Ryan? Well, thank you.
you're welcome.
Whoever wants to come next, come on up. Here we go, Veterans Agent.
Take less time than this is just a snapshot of what passports and veteran services
Oh, thank you.
will be up against moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
First thing I want to touch on is, and the one thing that I know Melanie and I have discussed, is the veterans benefit line of 135 is the second and third page. That's what this year looks like. The blue May and June is projected. That's what everybody. That's what the recipients are, due. This is what moves that line item up and down. And as you can see, we are, going to be in the red this year. The way that program works, many of you may know or may not know, but Chapter 115, if the money's not there, the town still has to obligate, meet the demand. So by level funding it again next year, as you can see, we'll probably be right around the same line as we are this year. There are a few added benefits that, if need be, then the town does provide. And if you guys have any questions on that, definitely let me know. But that was the big veterans item that definitely needs to be discussed.
I just want to speak to that real quick too, is that, so when we looked at that budget last year, because for many years now, the veterans benefit number's been trending down, so we've kind of brought the budget down along with it, and when we looked at where he was during the budget season last year, 135 seemed like a sustainable number for what he was paying monthly. There were some things like this year that happened that honestly, since I've been here, I didn't even know could happen. Like there's a $4,000 funeral benefit for veterans. I think we had two in FY26. I didn't even realize that that was something that could happen. So there was no buffer, no wiggle room for that, that cost that's came in. So I would definitely look at for next year for that to go back up to like 145. 150,
Don't we get a certain amount?
and we get
So you get
75%.
75% of that back. So also, one of the things that fluctuates the way you get off that program is you move out of town, your income goes up, or you pass away. Like I'm just being quite honest with you. That's what happens. So if we have a widow in town, her Social Security is never going to jump enough to come off the program, and unless she moves into a nursing home, we know. So that's why there's some that will stay the same, and so I put it on two different pages. We do two recertifications, one at the beginning of the fiscal year for us, and then one at the calendar year in January. That's when our numbers jump. So January, after I'm done with January certification, is when I can project to Melanie and you guys what next year is going to look like. This way we can gauge it. So
Is each of these rows on page 2 and 3, is that an individual veteran?
those are applicants in the program, correct?
So there's only like I don't know, what is it, like 15 lines, 12 lines?
Mhm.
So what happens if somebody moves into town?
So if somebody moves into town, we add their line item in there. I have, in the 7 years I've been here, I have fluctuated between 12 and about 22 people. Like I said, I came in with 17. That's usually 15, 17 is usually where we're at.
And that's just the number of veterans that qualify for this, or, because I'm assuming we have many more veterans than, 17 or 20, right?
No, we do, and with the aging population, like I was saying earlier, with one of the catchment areas in town is veterans and their spouses living at home. If one of them passes away, we all know how the economy is. That person, whether it's the veteran or the spouse that's left, is eligible for the program. A lot of my outreach is, to get that out there. Out of these 15, 6 of them have been with me the entire time. Everybody else has either come on. We had a couple people come on and come off. But as far as the people that stay with me, like I said, I've got 5 or 6. So.
But the true cost of that program to the town is only 25% of the overall budget.
Correct.
So supporting the veterans is 25%, the state helps us, or federal with the other 75%.
Correct.
And then his budget is like I was talking about, he's got one person in his office and he goes to a handful of conferences a year and might put ink in his printer. That's, really the rest of what's going on in his budget.
You want to talk about passport services, because the library was in here earlier, they talked about them taking over the program, et cetera, things like that.
Sure, the last page speaks on that. Gives you guys a snapshot of every FY that I have run the department. And to be upfront, the 14, 15 that you guys can see I'm bouncing around, that's the max that I can do with what I've got. I understand budget constraints. Other years I've been up here asking for an assistant. Obviously, I'm not going to be doing that anytime soon. But what we have seen is 14 and 15 is about what you're going to get into the general fund. I do believe with multiple people over at the library, one, you'd be able to bring more money into the general fund, and not for nothing, to be quite honest, you guys are paying me what you're paying me to be the veterans agent 26, 27 hours a week, because the other hours I've got to use to do passports. So you'd be bringing in more, plus everybody in town and everybody outside of town that comes in to do passports can benefit from the library. Not everybody that comes in my office to do passports can benefit from the veteran services. It does expose my office. My office has had plenty of exposure. I definitely think it would be time for, to help the library out and get some more feet in the door for them.
But there's no budget expenses associated with the passports, right? No line item
He's
budget.
bought a printer.
So we bought 4 years ago.
Yeah.
We bought a printer that has the regs already in it. So therefore, if I take Dave's picture and it's blurry, it's not going to print. But if it passes all 6 of the criteria, it prints off. Prior to, it was a lot of hit and miss, and you got to measure. So it's really cut down on on the redundancy of it. And like I said, this is something else that the library would definitely.
So the equipment would transfer to them. They'd take over the responsibility. I'm making an assumption the revenue would be about the same, which comes back into the general fund. So we have to have further talks with the library about this initiative. Perhaps they can either at least maintain the hours that we have right now, or expand those hours of availability, especially when you go out of town.
Definitely. Well, and for instance, still being in the military, so I'm out in military time, regular sick and vacation time. That's time that somebody can't get a passport. And then we also did increase the fees from 10 to 15. CVS is 17 or 18.99, so now we're up to 15, bringing in some extra money there. as well. So now to get a picture and a passport, it's $50 as opposed to 45 from years past. So
So it requires a little more follow-up conversation with the library. Okay. So if you want to mix that up with that, those are, and this one here. Okay, anything else, guys?
And then I just got one other thing, sir, if you allow me. On the veterans VA benefits, as you can see, for the last 5 years, we have been increasing that. And like I said, we're gonna try to continue that, but at some point we are gonna plateau. That 346 is about 40% of our veterans here in town have benefits through the VA or their spouses. That doesn't mean they're all disabled. That just means people receiving benefits. So, over $700,000 a month goes into our residents due to the VA benefits that they receive, as opposed to the 416 that was back in 2021. So, like I said, we're going to continue to help our residents out that way.
I just had a general question, just because I'm curious. Do all of the towns in Massachusetts veteran services work this same way as ours do here?
As far as what do you mean, sir?
Like how the funds or the benefits are distributed to the veterans?
Yes, Massachusetts is the only state in the country that has a municipality representative for the veterans. So, for instance, if you're in Rhode Island, you have to go to Providence for VA and state benefits. This Chapter 115 program that I went over with you guys tonight is a standalone just here in Massachusetts.
Just in Massachusetts?
Yes.
Yeah, because it seemed something like I've never really seen it before. Interesting.
So what you said, go back to what you said about 701,000, that's total awards.
Mhm.
Not necessarily from the town, but you assist veterans in getting those awards.
Yes,
And
that's
what's
what
due.
the VA pays our residents that of the 346.
Yep.
That's how much that's coming in monthly. Into they're paying their excise taxes, their property taxes, spending on the economy. And like I said, we've steadily increased that, and I would definitely plan to continue that as well.
Great. Thank you.
You don't have another, I'm missing the last few pages of this.
Oh,
I only have 3 pages and I think
I apologize.
5 or something.
there you go.
I trade.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, thank you.
What I was like last week when I didn't get the color version of the handouts, and you guys got all the color.
That was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so,
It's just, you gotta change it in the minutes.
okay. All right.
Anything else, Dave?
Nope.
Hey, I appreciate you guys affording me the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, guys,
Should we go to the town clerk and?
Okay.
So I don't love spreadsheets. I apologize. You're not getting one from me. Here's, if you don't mind just taking one and passing it down. I'm actually here to talk about your minutes tonight. And this is the only spreadsheet that we pass. And it's really, really small, so I apologize.
I pride myself in my A+ for Central School Building Committee minutes.
You get an A++.
Let's not go there.
For building committee minutes,
Well, I
that's all.
understand that, but I'm also, maybe some have been misfiled or misplaced. But I know we're working to improve.
I only gave myself a C, so we're okay.
Okay, let's, okay, let's, you want to take us through the highlights before we go through the line item with questions? Because I think that will help clarify some of the changes in the operating budget.
Yes, so the largest difference and the biggest push for my budget is that we're going from one election this year to 3 elections. And when I say that, I mean planned. 1 planned election to hopefully 3 planned elections. Charlie. And
And the 3 are the state election.
they are the state election in November, the primary election in September,
Right.
and then the annual town election in May. The cost goes up. The budget for this year involved the smallest election cost-wise that we have, which is the annual town election. The reason for that is there's no early voting in person. And primary is only 1 week of early voting in person, while the state election in November is a full 2 weeks of early voting in person. So for all of those, we have to be staffed.
And that's
So-
state mandated.
And that's state mandated. I don't have a choice. What we do have is, and it was the word I was trying to come up with while we were sitting in my office, unfunded mandate, which means that I do a cost certification every year to request money back specifically for early voting. That does include early voting by mail. This past year, I only put in the numbers that I requested. I'm assuming that's what I got back. But I requested for the last primary we had in 2024, I requested back $9,738.36. And then for the presidential election that we had in November of 24, I had requested back $18,482.64. So that's just what it costs us. I'm allowed to put in staffing, postage, cost of any extras like paper, envelopes, and I make sure that I put in every penny that I spend.
Where are those reimbursements referenced?
So I didn't put it in the actual, they're on my paper, but there's something that they don't come back to my office.
No, they go.
General fund?
They go directly into the general fund. So I never see what comes back. I just know what I did for the cost certification, what I requested. I share that with Melanie, so I'm assuming that I've never. Usually they'll call me like 2 or 3 times to ask questions about the cost certification, and then I just answer them, and I never hear from them again. So, and it goes into our general fund. So we do receive money back, even though I don't have control over those mandates. I need to do it by law. I'm required.
And is it the money that we requested, or do they just send some amount?
No, the money that we request.
So we assume
At
that
least
whatever we submit for costs is what we're getting reimbursed.
Yes.
Okay. And earlier in the year, we had talked about a reserve fund request for some expenses. Is that coming up, or are we managing that?
I'm hoping it won't be for quite as much. I think that I was able to maneuver around my budget a little bit. I changed some of my archival requests, so I changed how simple things, but they made impacted my budget. I changed how I handled archivals of marriage intentions, which nobody probably knows this, but I'm required by law to keep marriage intentions for eternity. And I figured out the price. It was like $384 just for the book that they go in with all of the papers. So working off of another town clerk's suggestion in a conference I went to, got that down to roughly $56 because I never touched the intentions. And now those books I get to use for my marriages. So I saved a ton of money, a couple $1,000s, not a ton, but just with that small change. And I also cut back and only ordered my access programs, which house all of my information for business certificates. I didn't actually have anything for boards and committees, which I needed to have. And like the dog program, I actually only ordered a new access program to be built for me because they're all 20 years old. So that was something that I had intended to do this year that I decided to just order one, given the constraints. So it will be coming, but I think it's not as much.
So these marriage intentions,
Yes.
when they get divorced,
Yes.
they cancel it out.
Nope.
That's
I have it
still on.
forever.
Okay.
I have.
Digitize it?
Um, yeah, that's kind of like a four-letter word in the clerk world, but you definitely can digitize it. There's really no reason we actually don't. Somebody somewhere is going to be mad about this, but we don't actually look at them. They the only time they have ever come up. I've been there for like 8 years now, and the only time I've ever had to look at one was once when somebody came and said that they filled out a marriage intention in 1984 wrong. Other than that, it's just there.
Was it to the wrong person?
I know, right?
I want
Yeah.
to talk about this more, but I don't want to waste everybody's time. I'm very interested in
I
this.
love talking. Well, as unfortunately Jen knows, I love talking about all these things
Oh, good.
for hours on end, and everybody in this room actually probably knows too. They're probably all rolling their eyes behind me.
Nope, not one person.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, it's not Charlie. It's nobody else.
Nobody else. So I tried to break down the election cost so you guys could see it. That is for all 3 elections. That's not for one. But just so you could understand the increase in that budget.
Yeah, but this is not uncommon. The years we don't have the presidential or the state elections, the budget reflects that too, it goes back down. So it's something pretty well aware of.
Like a 5-year average, running average, is
No.
probably similar. Like if you-
It would be, but then we have excess on certain years. And stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
And some of the mandates are newer too, so it's.
All of the early voting and vote by mail. I know we've been doing it since 2020, but it's still getting rolled out and they're changing it constantly. So
We've only had one presidential election with all of
I think I've
the early voting and
we've had 2, but the first one was during COVID, so that was really not fun. And it was traumatic, so I barely remember it. The last one, though, wasn't as traumatic. And advanced processing, that's the other added piece.
Do you think there's any possibility that the voting regulations have changed based on federal desires?
I think that Massachusetts will be one of the last. We have a really good way of doing voting. I can't speak for other states because I'm not sure, but I know that we've held true to our outcomes, and so I feel you don't ever see Massachusetts in the papers, and you don't. I know. The issues that have happened have been primarily issues with not having enough ballots from the Secretary of State or the ballots not being in the right place and needing to get there because they were back at the office. Or in the Cape, where the poor town clerk got locked out of her vault. And the person that she hired to open it for her that morning of the election decided to use a sledgehammer on it. Those are like the reasons, which I immediately got our vault checked, so we're okay.
And you got rid of your sledgehammer.
And I got rid of, we don't have a sledgehammer. But yeah, so I don't anticipate a lot of changes. But I also tell people that I'm going to either be the first or last to know. I just am going to get told to do it. So I'm not anticipating too many more. I do know that this November coming up, I've already told everybody else that the ballot is the longest ballot that we've ever seen in, I believe, the history of elections. You haven't heard anything new, right, Charlie?
It's still at 12.
Still 12 questions. So
don't you not know how the ballot readers are gonna read?
we're yep, that's the exact issue. We're not clear on it's a 2.5-page ballot back and front, and they are still trying to figure out how our machines process it. The nightmare also is going to be, which I forgot to mention in our department head meeting, the other nightmare is going to be that every time somebody just sends me back 1 or 2 of those parts of the ballot and forgets to put in the third sheet, I have to reject it and remail them out a new one. And based on previous work, that is going to be a nightmare. And that's what other people are talking about too. So really not looking forward to the November ballot.
Wow.
It's gonna be a huge, and it's gonna be a lot of work on the election staff, so I'm gonna be very nice to them.
Okay, these are mandates, it's there, we've got to calculate it into the whole town-wide budget, and, okay, here's what it is. Anything else? Who's our next volunteer?
I
Russ?
feel like this isn't really volunteer, it's more like conscription.
So you're sitting back, you go last, right?
Russ was here before me anyways. I'm afraid I may not have enough copies. I'm wondering if.
I can bring yours up here.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't make enough.
It's okay, I have this on the script.
I was just gonna say, I think I have mine up as well.
Yeah, I have it.
Can I still take it?
You're good? Okay. What would you guys like to know?
What would you like to talk about?
We're doing our best to save money wherever we can. I mean, I'm willing not to take a raise if that's going to help. Seriously, we're a small department, and we interact with just about all the other departments. Just, I mean, with the clerk's office, it's covering the elections. With the schools, it's the school musical performance, the high school graduation, stuff like that. Zach over there is covering tonight's meeting, so we're kind of all over the place. I know that the one big thing that's down here is vehicle maintenance, so fingers crossed we won't have to do any work on the van. The van goes out to cover things like the Christmas parade.
Pancake breakfast, I just saw you guys there.
Yeah, we were out there for the Kiwanis pancake breakfast, and we were at that AI thing, and yes, that scared the willies out of me too. When I was standing behind the camera. They were talking about how AI is going to eliminate directors, camera operators, audio people, just all the positions that we do for a living.
How about finance committees?
You guys are safe.
I got it. Nobody's safe.
Is there a mistake, I mean, the vehicle maintenance, what I have here is $76 to $2,600.
Yeah, that's a huge drop, but
Does the
Wow.
DPW?
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have $76.
Yes, so you have it, the vehicle maintenance going up to 26.
It's 76.
I thought it was going down.
Yeah.
That's FY 26, the year we're in right now, and then this is the requested amounts.
Oh, I thought I misread that. I apologize.
Does the
We
DPW
can go back, I
maintenance
can
on
go
that
back.
van?
We can.
What they
I don't think we're going to require that much money for vehicle maintenance.
Okay, so we can look at that. And
It's something that can be reduced. I mean, I read it wrong. I apologize. I thought it was going down to 76, not up.
So I think that, like with his budget, it's, it's funded, it's an enterprise fund, it's funded from the receipts that come in from Comcast, and the last couple of years, they've also had to dip into their retained earnings that came over with them from the nonprofit that they were prior to becoming an enterprise fund, because unfortunately, the Comcast number is going down every quarter that we're getting
People are cutting the cord.
the money, it's less and less money each quarter right now because people are cutting cable. So it's based on subscribers, so that money's going down. So that's a conversation that we'll have to have about, how long are they sustainable completely on the Comcast money and the retained earnings versus needing town subsidy. Right now, they have no town subsidy, none of the taxpayer money is going, none of the state aid, none of it's going to EBCAM as of right now.
So this bottom line number is not being subsidized.
Not as of right now.
Okay, move it.
So,
And-
but I think they're probably closer to 250,000 in Comcast receipts for FY 26. based on what's come in
Yeah.
so far.
I don't think so. Vehicle maintenance is one of these things where the vehicle, we don't take the van out every day. It's for different occasions, like Dale and the Duds concert, Christmas, like I said, Christmas on the Common, things like that. The majority of the time, it's parked and in a garage, so I don't think we're gonna be using quite that large amount of money on vehicle maintenance unless we get a flat tire.
Where did that number come from?
I mean, honestly, don't know. I mean, I thought it was going down to 87, so I apologize.
All right, so we'll have to make that adjustment. And right now, it's not subsidized right now.
Right.
So even if we put it in there and didn't spend it, it would still be available anyway next
And-
year.
And as an enterprise fund, the biggest increase that they're seeing is the indirect costs. So this is the same for water and solid waste, is that we take basically the percent of payroll that takes a town payroll, how much, say it's, 1% is EBCAM salaries, then 1% of the pension assessment gets charged back to EBCAM, and the health insurance is done on a person by person basis, but those numbers have just continued to go up. So that's where you see the biggest increase to their expenses.
But long-term, the
The pension assessment will go
go,
down. It will go up for a few more years and then go down.
and then the overall costs of this department is only paid for either from subsidies from Comcast or the retained earnings?
Right now, yes.
So at a certain point in time, those retained earnings will run out.
hmm
Do we know what the projected time is on that?
I was looking at it the other day, and I don't think it would be more than like 2 years, maybe 3. That would
So
take
discussions
it
of how to fund this would have
need
to
to be
be
happening.
now.
Yeah, and were you on the email? Charlie and I have already started talking about it, but that we need to look at it.
Because there isn't currently a way to fund this department outside of the Comcast
Right.
subsidies.
Okay. And Russ, one thing that we talked about in the past is the equipment and, and things like that. And what is the status of your equipment?
Some of our equipment is reaching end of life, as Zach can point out. Right now, we're having a problem with that switcher, which is, we never know when equipment's gonna fail. It's one of those things where you can buy something and it'll last, for 10 years and no problems. That switcher is actually one of our younger units. The one downstairs is the older unit. I was expecting the downstairs switcher, the one in the selectment chamber, to fail way before this one did, and I don't know why. Zach spent the entire day today just dealing with our vendor, trying to figure out why it just suddenly stopped working.
Well, hasn't Comcast funded some of that equipment?
So part of the money that we get annually is a equipment assessment. So we get quarterly payments based on subscribers, and then within the agreement, we get $18,000 a year from Comcast that I think is an equipment.
Okay.
One of the things that Charlie and I spoke with via email is I'm starting to work on a 5-year plan to figure out which equipment is the most crucial and which equipment needs to be replaced first. I mean, in the last 2 years, the one thing I've been trying to replace, we have 2 edit systems, Final Cut Pro systems, and those are near end of life just because they're malfunctioning intermittent. They still work, but they're causing problems. But every time I've tried to replace them, something else has failed, and it's caused me to have to put that aside and take care of the emergencies first. So,
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, what are engineering costs?
we literally have an engineer who comes in from time to time to do things like give you a perfect example. During the summer, when it's the quietest, we will bring an engineer in to update the software in the various computers, the one here, the one downstairs, the one in the van, the one in our control room, and then just general maintenance, fixing things that aren't working right. Perfect example, last summer, one of the camera outlets wasn't working correctly in the gymnasium, which for us is a big deal because we cover the basketball games, March Madness, volleyball games, all the stuff that goes on in the gym, and we need those camera outlets to work correctly. So we will bring in, we don't have a full-time engineer. Most TV stations we'll have a full staff engineer. But one of the ways we save money is just by bringing him in, him or her, whoever we can get, just for a short period of time during the summer to do maintenance. So,
Thank you.
no problem. I feel bad, guys. I'm making you sad here. I'm not trying to.
We were sad
We're home by
when we
today.
started.
Come on, be positive. All right, thank you.
Sorry, you're right.
Hey, I can tell a dad joke if you want. I don't care.
Let's hear one.
You want a dad joke?
Yeah.
Okay. Two Irishmen, Liam McGuire and John O'Shaughnessy, are in a bar. And Liam walks up to John and says, "How you doing?" He goes, I'm doing much better now. I've got a hearing aid. State of the art. The thing works magnificently." And he says, "What kind is it?" And he goes, 1232.
Well, that was worth it.
Anybody else who comes up has to also.
If I can make my stepdaughter roll her eyes, I know I've done my job.
Thank
Keep
you.
up the good work.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have the Board of Health.
Well, at least I tore yours apart.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So sorry.
It's all right.
Just in the way.
Trying to move expeditiously.
At least I can have an understanding on the MS4 stuff, so I can see to that.
Charlie, do we need to make this a joint meeting because Tom and I are both here, or are we okay?
Well, you're deliberating, normally you would have posted, I'm not going to notice anything happen.
We don't really have a sales pitch, but we'll field any questions.
I know for their budget, the one thing that you'll notice, because again, they're a two-person department, they have the Board of Health agent, and then they have Sandra, who's the administrative assistant in the office. And there is the line item for MS4, so you notice that that was previously brought to zero because there hadn't been historically spending out of the account. But after talking to John Haynes and Board of Health, I finally have a bit of understanding on it where because John Haynes, DPW also has an MS4 line, but they're responsible for different pieces of compliance within MS4. So if certain things were to go wrong, some of it falls on DPW and some of it falls on Board of Health. So having that money available there is luckily it has not happened, but if it was to happen, that there's some money available, depending on what was to happen, whether that amount's adequate or not, I guess we don't have any history on, but we tried to put some money back in there, because they are responsible for certain aspects of the MS4 stuff.
Is there a state minimum that the state says you have to have, or is it just what you feel would be adequate?
I don't know what the standard set, we were told by John Haynes, in the email to the companies that 10,000 is the amount, so I would assume that's either the minimum or the reasonable amount expected to investigate a leak.
There was a little decrease in the disposal monitoring, so that was a plus. We don't see many things going down, but we got a number from the vendor they used there. That number went down a bit, about $6,000 maybe.
So it's a 6% increase.
So
It's that $10,000.
yeah, it's the $10,000.
And that $10,000 isn't necessarily going to be an expense. It just has to.
No, it's just something we need for an emergency.
For an emergency, so it may
Right.
just
Make
revolve
it
the
sit
state.
there,
Yeah.
We did, the last time we had money, we didn't spend it on MS4
I
investigations.
think it was like years in a row that the money was there, but never
Yes,
spent,
right.
and that's why we
Slowly
thought we
drained away.
could pull it away, but not fully understanding that there should be money there.
Should it be 10,000? Should it be 5,000?
Knowing what monitoring anything entails, I imagine that it's expensive. Whatever it is, I'm not the
But we
right
haven't
person.
done it, right? That's
But
why it was
if there was an incident, or I'm not the right person to speak to this, but if there was an incident where they needed to get involved and DPW needed to be involved, I assume that costs would escalate quickly. But
And if it doesn't get spent, it comes back into free cash anyway. I do have one question, is the fencing and the issue that we had around Bridge Street, is that all completed now?
Yes, sir. Friendship Park is complete.
And as the folks who I understood were encroaching on that area or coming into the area, or took the fence down, is that all resolved?
I believe so, yes. Because that was because the old wooden fence had fallen down, so they were using the former landfill as private property. But with the new fence being up, they no longer can.
So that whole project is complete.
Yes, sir.
And have you talked with the Council on Aging on the nurses' weekly 3 hours?
No, that was just an idea we started kicking around Monday, so I don't believe anything has come of that just as of yet.
This budget doesn't reflect a need to do that right now. This budget was presented with the intent of continuing to do those 3 hours.
The 3 hours at Council Aging, I believe so, yes.
Okay. And I'm gonna say the word, and it's not gonna come out right, because I'm from Boston area, right? Shops. The shops containers and things that you get, is that covered in one of these line items for the?
No, sir, that's been turned over to the fire department.
They do all of it?
Yes, sir.
I do have one question. Of course, I always had one question.
At least.
The monitoring of the water at Bridge Street, that branches out towards Bridgewater. What's the status of that?
Of the Brown and Caldwell monitoring, the yearly monitoring?
The monitor for, what do they call those, with the runoff of the water going into their water supply? We've been monitoring that each year.
The wells from the dump?
Yeah,
The
from
under-
Bridge Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last monitoring report I read, they couldn't find a few of the wells, and they believe them to have been damaged and the water to have escaped. But I believe most of them were still intact.
Because we were monitoring for contamination to the Bridgewater wells, right?
I believe so.
and
how we
that's
tried
that,
to do
that's this, right?
Yes, that's that top line.
So I'm speculating here, is when we got the number for the 58,300, that was based on the lab telling them.
Right.
So I'm assuming things must be going
Still
well
going
for
well.
that number to be going down. But again, that's speculation.
I do know that the time has expired for residents to receive the notices. When it first started, I forget the period, but they did receive the monitoring notices. Now, only the board receives them.
Right. And since this all began many years ago, it's been capped, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
One of the questions that we talked about is that you also are receiving some grants. Have the MBTA Act impacted any of your grants?
That I'm not sure of. I don't believe so. You know, I think
I was
that's
gonna
too many
say,
grants.
Well, since I've been here, the Board of Health has received little to no grants that I can think of, so. I know they got some during COVID, I believe. I can't think of anything.
Okay.
Just quickly back on the water leaking from the dump into Bridgewater's water supply. There's a lot of issues, well-known issues with Bridgewater's water supply. Does the town have any kind of liability there because of that?
You know, it was
It's gonna
years
come back
ago, I
and
don't
bite us.
remember all of it, it comes back to when we were doing sewage feasibility and all sorts of stuff, but my understanding is the runoff or whatever from the landfill, whatever they call it, 2 o'clock this morning, I'll wake up and remember what the name is. But as it flows down, does it contaminate or is it getting closer to their wells? So we've been monitoring it, and we've capped it since then and other things like that. So, and I know there was a requirement at one point in time that we had to do it on such a certain frequency.
Mhm.
And I believe that's kind of tapered off because it's been years. It was a very active situation probably 15, 18 years ago. I haven't heard anything else about it. Maybe I'm not paying attention, but it'd be worth it to find out if we can. What the heck is it called? I can't remember what it's called.
Charlie, any thoughts on what the website? He's trying to think of some.
What
Same
it's
word.
called? Those, I want to say like tribute. It's almost like a tributary coming off of a river. Branches that would go out, and where the runoff was going. The direction of the runoffs is what you were monitoring to stay away from the wells. So, and everything looked like it was not going to impede. So, I guess we shouldn't ask questions.
Maybe not this year.
Okay. Anything else? All right, thanks.
What kind of doctor is Dr. Pepper?
This is
Oh,
Physician.
Wait.
Oh, thank you. Physician.
Welcome to it.
I'm not a dad.
Oh my God. Go on dad jokes. I can come up with a lot. It's like that. Okay. Oh, no. Last time I did it, you guys gave me a bunch of baloney, so, but I come prepared next week. So,
Do you want to run through any departments that aren't here? I can tell.
I have nothing in particular myself. If these folks do, we can. I think over the next 2 weeks before our next meeting, that we're gonna need to sit down and go through department by department. And the reason I say that is I'm very concerned about the meeting that we had today and with the bond council and looking at our financial picture. And I'm just gonna give my perspective, from what I saw, that we're borrowing from the future to pay things today. One of the things that we do is, and we've been about this for a long time, we've been talking about this, is using stabilization fund or free cash to fund the operating budget for ongoing expenses, which is a bad practice, which is it's catching up to us because the free cash is getting less and less every year, especially as we get tighter on the budgets. We're concerned about I'm concerned about our bond rating going out to bond for the projects that we have ahead of us. And I'm also concerned that we haven't achieved our goal on some of the larger departments. And even with attaining that, we have to look at, and the finance team, they work very hard and dissect every option. But from what I saw today, I'm not really totally comfortable with, well, it's not a surprise, with the fiscal situation and where we're going from. And even our plan that we had, that we're gonna use this much from the stabilization and we'll do this and we'll get through to 2031, I have questions about. And to me, the bottom line is, we've been trying and working very hard to maintain stability in all the departments and try and keep the bus driving. The wheels on the bus go round and round. But I think we're at a point where we have to have some serious discussion about having a year of correction, because we can't depend on these what-if funds, free cash, and draining our stabilization funds totally. I will tell you, and this may be a surprise or not a surprise to you, that after this meeting, we've had some of the conversations, I've done some follow-up, and I don't believe that we're in a position where we will be funding or be able to fund the $400 supplement to the Chapter 90 money for the roads for this year. And I think every year is going to be piece by piece. And by not doing that, it could help us with things like a lawsuit payment that we have to make, snow and ice budget, and a whole bunch of other things, which we'll go into more detail at another meeting as we try to figure some of this out. But at the same time, I'm going to work with, I will talk to the different liaisons about where I see potentials on some of the operating budgets of what we need to look at. You know, once again, we can't say we're going to cut this two-man department and make it a $500,000 and stuff like that. But we do have to look at some of our larger departments, and we have to look at what do we do, what do we have to do, what's critical versus, you know, let's do it because it's a good thing to do. So I'm going to call it, we need a correction here, just like the stock market corrects itself, because what we've built our dependency upon for free cash and the direction we're going with our stabilization funds, it's really not sustainable. And we can't really count on saying, okay, in 2031, the world's going to be beautiful and we're going to replenish all these funds, because it's all forecasted and speculative. And, you know, we've been talking years about the land that we're going to sell down here and what we're going to do here, and we realize that it takes a lot of time for this stuff to happen. So we didn't have a big budget relief for 2027 or 2028, and I'm really nervous about 2031 and getting there. But I don't want to jeopardize critical services, essentials, and what we must fund for what the community needs to understand, what we have to fund and the extra things that we fund. You know, we got to talk about, is it important that we run 2 ambulances? How does the community, because this is a community problem, is community happy with at times having one firefighter respond to a fire until the other ones get there? Are we happy with not having community policing out there and people, you know, having, I don't know, I'm going to get the number, instead of having 3 patrol cars out there, are we happy with having 1 patrol car? Do we want to go, we've had conversations in prior years, do we want to shut down and go dark at the police station from midnight till 8 o'clock in the morning because we've got 1 patrolman out on the roads? So these are all the things we have to really discuss. But I really think it's time we need to look at, what do we do, what do we have to do, versus what do we do? Because there are a lot of extenuating things that we provide for the community, and that it's only fair to the community to understand what's being done here. And they have to help us make the decision. That's what town meeting's about. And everybody needs to understand we're in this together. And they need to understand the ramifications and the excess cost, or I'll call it the extended cost. If we're borrowing money because our cash flow is here and we're borrowing money, then we're paying unnecessary interest on that money while we're borrowing it. So we're just kicking ourselves in the head the more we try to make everybody happy. And I don't know about you, but I know, and I see it all the time, and you hear it every day on the news with the economy, gas and fuel and groceries, etc., and things like that. We're no different than the person at home who are faced with those challenges. It's time for us to wake up and realize we're faced with challenges. And I don't like borrowing till tomorrow to run today. So cash flow, very important. I also, today, we have, I believe, from 2025 to 2026 so far, or it was 24 to 25, 350,000 in out due, past due, and tax debt. Okay, that would help our cash flow situation. So we're going to have some talks about what are we going to be doing to collect that tax debt. So once again, it's community, we're all together, we can sit here and talk. The people at home have to show up to these meetings, they have to show up to town meeting. We have the most democratic form of society there ever was. Every registered voter at town meeting has a vote. Melanie or Charlie or us make recommendations. We don't implement. Those recommendations go and the townspeople vote. We have 11,000 registered voters roughly in town, and we get 400 people maybe at town meeting. So 400 people are making decisions for the other 1,100, the other 10,000 people. Okay? So when people say, I'm just going to tell you, it frustrates me when they say, oh, the Board of Selectmen did this, or your town government's not backing this, or this is happening there. You know what? That's not the case. It's you. Let me point at you. You're not at town meeting. You're not voting. You're the problem. So we're going to continue to make our recommendations on what we feel is the best for this town. And you can stay at home, or you can come and vote, or you're welcome to come to a meeting. And we know, Charlie was at the library the other day to do a presentation on town finances and revenue. We had 2 citizens show up. 2 citizens. But everybody complains about the money and where's the money going from. And let's not forget everybody who's on the take in town too, all right? I'm really kind of sick of it. Get involved, and I think this is a year we need to make some tough decisions. There are things we are not going to be able to do, and I am not willing to take from our future to fund today, because our future will just be worse. So we'll get you more financial information. A lot of this came about today, but you know what? It wasn't really a big surprise. We're going to need to do a little more work on these budgets, and we're going to have to look at things and get basically down and dirty talking to some of these folks. One of the things that I'm just going to throw out there, and it's been my opinion for a long time, is that when we take level funded from last year to this year, and then we get a new union contract or something that we have to pay, and we fund that separately, we're adding fuel to the fire. If we can fund you at last year's level, we can fund you at last year's level. And if you might have to look at the hours that you work, but we cannot continue to absorb some of these increases within the departments. And that's plain and simple. And we're kidding ourselves if we think that we can. I'll guarantee you, I feel because of the budget work that's been done over the years, and Melanie, you can tell me it's not true, but because of how tight we run and what we've done, our free cash has reduced significantly. That's because we used to over budget to compensate to get free cash. And now, as we've been really nose to the grindstone on this, our budgets are tight. To maintain the services we have, our budgets are tight. We might not even see $1 million in free cash next year. I mean, it went down from 2-point-something to 1.2 this year.
Yeah, it depends on, there's a lot of factors that come in.
Yeah. But still, and the increase or lack of increase in state aid to keep up with inflation and the increase in cost of healthcare is killing. And it's not just our community, it's everybody. We've been hearing it a lot more from other communities, because I believe this financial team has done a wonderful job in getting us to where we are today. But my general feeling is we can't continue down this path. We have to get real. So,
I mean, I definitely would agree. I'm just not certain from on a town level how it's different from like a business level. For me is I can't see how we could cut our way, let's say, to profitability at this point. So we have to somehow increase revenue or money coming in, because for future we can't just keep cutting to get there, because that won't happen. So, it won't really work. So how does that work?
you're right. We could do an override, an operational override to bring in new revenue, increase taxes, or we can take it back a step and say, what do we do that we're not required to do? It's extra. So
And do you feel like there's still more left on the table in that
there are
arena?
things that we're doing that we're not required to do. But it supports the community.
Right, because is that the goal, to do just what's required or to provide the best
Our goal
service
is
to
to
the
do what we can
community?
afford to do.
Yeah.
And if the citizens don't want to pay extra in an override, they have to accept less because we can't afford it.
There's no choice.
That's how I run my house.
Do you think the messaging is clear from what is needed and what the citizens understand?
I think citizens need to understand what's required
Yeah.
and what's the extra that we do.
And do you think it's clear to them though? Or like, are we passing that
Well, I
information
don't
on to
think-
them so they could vote
I don't think the
educationally?
message is actually,
Right, that's
I
what I
don't
mean.
think there's a conduit
I
to
don't think
get
the
out
message
to
is there, they
most
understand.
people.
Well,
Why am I showing up at town hall meeting? I don't know. Because I don't understand why I would
That's what I
go.
was thinking, yeah.
because it's a democracy, it is a town level government, it's not a city where you vote councilmen or selectmen who make all the decisions for you. It's not a representative form of town government, it's town
Town meeting.
government, it's a town meeting. And you as a voter make all the decisions. So the information is there. I hear a lot, I don't have time, I don't have this, well, it's broadcast on the internet and on YouTube TV, all the meetings. There's ample opportunity. And now the latest I'm hearing from folks is they want a mailing every time there's a town meeting, so everybody knows there's a town meeting. Okay, we have the bulletin signs. I mean, I didn't know.
Yeah, that's certainly what you hear.
You know, so there has to be some responsibility on the voters' part to be aware of what's going on. Because I wouldn't want to make a decision about the community if they don't understand what's going on in the community.
Right.
So there's an obligation on their part for all these people who work very, very hard. There's also an obligation for the voters to be informed. And we are not holding back any information. It is all out there. Whether they choose to look at it, pursue it, that's up to them. But I just want to make clear, I think everybody's working very hard within the town. I don't think people should be pointing fingers at this is a bad guy, this is a bad person, they shouldn't be doing this, they shouldn't be doing that. Well, you should be at the meetings, or you should be there to vote. Because you're the decision maker. They do not make the final decision. Period. So, I'm just saying, it's time to get involved, and it's time to tighten our belt.
Is there a town department or person who really champions all of these, like, this information to the community?
We have a town webpage.
Yeah.
Everything's posted on the town webpage.
But that's very much like, come get this information. But for us to push it out to them, is there like anybody that really champions that message?
They've been trying really hard to get everything out on Facebook. It's go ahead,
It's a
Charlie.
full-time
There's-
job in
Well,
and of
yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The challenge is that, sure, there's ways we can push it out, but then people have to sign up to say, yes, I want
this information. Yeah.
That means going to the website and saying, so that at some point they've got to go and make a decision, short of what David was saying. You can mail out the warrant to everybody, that's a very much a push that goes out to every single household, some towns still do that. But obviously, to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an email address,
Yeah.
you can get all the information sent to you as it's occurring on the town. There's a wonderful town newsletter that comes out, was that monthly that comes out? You know, all sorts of information. It directs you to every department that we have on the website. It tells you who the contact people are on the departments on the website. We're always available. I mean, it's there.
Dave, does the consolidated budget get posted to like the B1, B2 we're looking at in Excel? Do we post that
It
on
will
our
get
website?
posted, it will get posted more when the town warrant is complete.
Because I know I've heard at town meeting from, a couple hundred that are there, that they thought we'd go line by line in the meeting sometimes.
Many years ago, we used to go department by department. I remember one year we spent 45 minutes talking about a trade-in of a $75 push lawnmower that was broken.
No, but if we post the breakdown so that people who are more curious about that, because you don't do that at town
It
meeting.
would be posted as part of the article. And that's out 2 weeks in advance, is it, or something like that? It's at least 2 weeks in advance.
Because we had a big turnout, right, for like the MBTA town hall meeting, right?
Yeah.
That
But
was a big one for us, but it was a small portion of the voters.
yeah, but it was still big turnout for us. But that was like because it's on the news and everyone's talking about it and it's all this buzz, all of this stuff. No one's really talking about it, so they feel like I don't care. They
I'm
don't
not
show.
talking about it, but they're
Yeah.
complaining about it.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
After the fact.
and like I said, I just want to put it out there that if you think those elected officials and appointed officials in this town aren't doing their job, they're working their tails off.
Mm-hmm.
They're working
Evident.
their tails off. So, I would invite anybody. Our next meeting is April 15th. You're more than welcome to attend,
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
6
Next day.
And I'm sorry, I had to get that off my chest. I wouldn't have been able to sleep tonight.
Well, in a sense, you're preaching to the choir, and I don't mean to burst the bubble, but it would be very helpful for that.
Volunteering for anything.
No.
All right,
Volunteered
well,
out.
I apologize, but something you had to say.
Yep.
I felt I had to say.
Are you making a motion to?
What?
I don't know.
Make a if there's nothing else to come before the board, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn, since Karen really wants to go.
No.
Make a motion.
Sometimes you start to leave, and then you're like, "Oh wait, I didn't."
Well,
make
I'm
a
not saying
motion."
anything else. I
And-
said enough.
Okay. Did you just make a
I'll
motion
make a
to
motion to adjourn.
Karen?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.